So I'm glad to say hey. So I do want to remind you, check in on Stonebrooke on your particular newsfeed, Facebook newsfeed. Let everybody know that you are hanging out with us online. But check in on your feed, and then also check in on our feed here and say hi. So I want to see if we've got anybody that's joined us already. Maybe Wendy, Erica, good morning. Hi, Nicole. I see a few people on Facebook, nobody on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube and Facebook also. I'm going to grab this so that I can see it. Christina Gore, good morning. Good morning again from Uganda. Thank you guys for watching us again this morning. Let's see. Have you guys been enjoying the weather this morning? It's lovely and sunny out and a little warmer than yesterday, so that's nice. Hi, Timothy. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Mayor Luge. We're glad to have you. We're going to hear a little bit more from our mayor here in the service just a bit short, in a few minutes. So, hi, Shay. Good morning, Kate. Glad you guys are all hanging out with us this morning. Tina, good morning. Thank you very much. Hi, Jamie. Again, don't forget to check in on your news feed that you're attending Stonebrooke this morning, and take a picture of you and your family this morning. Let us know what you guys are doing. Whether you're in your pajamas or, please have pants on if you're going to post it on Facebook. They frown against those things. But let us know. We miss your faces, so we would love to see what you guys are doing, what you're up to, any projects you've been doing while you're stuck at home. Let's see. Hi, Sandra. Good morning. Good morning, Angela. Do we have anybody? We've got somebody from Uganda. Last week we had people from Germany, Uganda, Colorado, all over the world we had last week. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you're just joining us and you have kids, I want to mention we do have a live Facebook feed specifically for your kids. You can go to Stonebrooke Kids Facebook page and find their live stream there. Caleb has some really fun things planned for them this week, so they will really enjoy that, I'm sure. Yo, Benji, good morning. Hi, Ashley. Shay, I mean, you don't have to wear pants, just don't take a picture. That's all I'm saying. You're at home in your own house. You don't have to wear pants. That's part of the fun of, watching online. Good morning, Heather. Hi, Doug. Hi, Janice. I really do miss seeing all of your faces in person. That kind of stinks. It'll be nice when we can get back together, but I'm glad we have the ability to do this and still hang out virtually, so that's nice. Wisconsin, good morning. Hi, Josh's mom and dad. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're going to get started with the actual service here in about a minute. We've got some songs. We've got a really fun interview planned, and then Mark is going to answer some more questions. So we've got a really fun service planned for today. I'm really glad that you guys decided to hang out with us. Good morning, Katie. Sandra, to check in on Facebook, you're going to go to your news feed, and in the comments, just type in the @ Stonebrooke Church, and that'll pop up. It'll say you are at Stonebrooke Church. That's how you check in on Facebook. Let everybody know that you're hanging out with us. You can also share our live feed. You can start a watch party. So let's have some fun this morning. Share with everybody what we're doing here. Hi, Val. All right, guys, you guys keep checking in with us, hang out with us. We're going to get this thing started with a song. So here we go.
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail, a smile from a veil? Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to trade your heroes for ghosts, hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change? Did you exchange a walk-on part in a war to a lead role in a cage?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark, and welcome to the very first episode of a segment we like to call, What the Heck Are You Doing? here this morning, we have a very distinguished guest. You may not be familiar with this lady, but her name is Lula Mae Pate from Arkansas. That's a whole other country we hear. But many of you probably know her as our very famous mayor, Luge Hardman. Welcome, Luge. I'm really glad you're here this morning.
Thank you, Mark. Mark, you are just wonderful. I enjoy being with you every time I'm with you. And what a nice ride it's been with you and your congregation. It's been something to watch.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time. We're here to find out what the heck are you doing? First of all,
isn't technology great? I just did this with my grandchildren the other day, so it's wonderful. So you're introducing me as a name that nobody even recognizes.
and where did this name Luge come from? Tell us the story.
So very quick story. I can make them real long, but I'll make it real quick. My father took us to Oklahoma City because he couldn't make any money being a farmer. We lived in the projects in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
And right beside our apartment was this beautiful hill. And so I was the only girl. My brothers and I were very much outdoor kids. And so we didn't have to have snow. We would take trash can lids, those old steel ones,
Yeah.
and grab the handles, and down that hill we'd go. Well, I'm just telling you that I was dadgum good at it.
Yeah.
Can you tell I'm from LA? I say dadgummit.
I don't know if you can say that on TV, Luge.
Dadgummit. So anyway, I would go down that hill, and one of the neighbors began to call me the luge,
Oh, that's cool.
as in the sled.
Sure.
And so my brother started calling me luge, luge, and they couldn't say luge, so it was luge. And coming from the South, we all have two names. So when I really didn't like that name. I didn't like it. I was named after both my grandmothers. And so when this nickname came along, I grabbed it.
I don't know. Mayor Lula Mae, I may just call you that. Since you're a lame duck mayor, I can just call you whatever I want now.
You can. And get away with it.
And get away with it. Plus, you're not even
I've
actually.
been called worse, believe me.
Well, we may get to that here in just a minute. You were a teacher for many years in the district, a very well-loved teacher. You were even teacher of the year in the state. But what the heck are you doing becoming mayor of Waynesville? What caused you to want to be mayor?
I had always taught government and history and civics and those type of classes, social studies. And when I left office, I was retired for 2 years, and then I decided I didn't want to just sit on the couch and read. And so I had a deep desire. I really did. I really had a deep desire to make my town better. And especially our downtown, which at that time was just, I called it the armpit of the world. It was horrible.
Yeah.
70% of the buildings were neglected and abandoned. And so I had a deep desire to make my town better. And I said, I'm going to run for city council and see what I can do. And that's how I got involved. And, I kind of thought to myself, I always preach to those kids about getting involved. And so by George, I'm doing it.
Along that line, with all the things that you have accomplished as mayor here in Waynesville, what would you say is your proudest accomplishment? What do you like the best?
My proudest accomplishment of being mayor.
Yeah, being mayor.
I would probably say my children, but I'm most proud of my mayor achievements. You'd have to say downtown revitalization, number one.
Okay.
And the fact that we succeeded in getting our Laughlin Park designated as a part of the National Historic Trail. That was amazing. The other thing, 2 years ago, when we did the accessible playground in the community, you guys were all involved in that. It was a wonderful experience. And we are one of the just few rural communities who have an accessible playground. In fact, just a year ago, one of my old students is very active in Warrensburg, and she had taken our idea and built an accessible playground there in Warrensburg. And I actually went up, they invited me up for the dedication. And I am very proud of rebuilding the infrastructure in Waynesville and bringing it up to really, I think, a level that will take us 20, 30 years into the future. Yeah. And we don't have time for me to tell you all the things that we've done. Sure. Our staff has been amazing. Our departments have been amazing. I am proud of improved communication with our citizens. I think most people in Waynesville know they know me. Maybe they don't. but really know me, but they feel like they can call me up and or they can talk to me on Facebook. And I've been very proud of the fact that I was always accessible.
You've been quarantined
Uh-huh.
for quite a while. And so we want to know your top 6 tips for surviving quarantine.
I decided that I would talk to the people, because I'm a mayor and I've got to be thoughtful and a politician, and I want to talk to you about growth.
Okay.
And so these are my 6 tips for staying at home during this coronavirus or quarantine thing.
Number 6.
Well, the first thing is we want to work on our relationships. So number 6 is call and reconnect with friends.
We got time to do that. We should be doing that. Number 5.
And number 5, you've got to work on your hygiene.
Yeah, that's important.
And, I told you that I washed my hair just for you today. Yeah. Well, I want everybody to shower at least once a week, whether you need it or not. Put that down. It's very important.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4, I want you to work on your home. And I want you to know that I have the cleanest house in the whole county. You can come in my house. It is the cleanest and best organized house in the whole county. And that's what you need to be doing.
Okay, these are great. How about number 3?
Number 3, let's work on culture. So I want you to read some books. That's what I've been saying to my grandchildren. And I want you to watch some classic movies.
Classic movies.
If you've never seen Casablanca, if you've never seen Gone with the Wind, this is the time to do that. And watch them with your kids. If your kids have never seen Wizard of Oz, pull that thing out.
Number 2.
Number 2 is physical education.
Oh, that's
you
bad.
Got to get outside at least once a day. Number 1, got to work on your culinary habits.
Okay.
Whether it's cooking, but I just have one motto for all of you. Step away from the fridge.
Step away from the fridge. That's the best.
If you are tempted, step back from the fridge. That's it. That'll get you through this. I promise you it will.
Well, hopefully we'll start to get back to some sort of, I don't even know what to even call normal, but hopefully we'll eventually take some steps back that direction. Well, our time is sort of getting away from us this morning, but before we go, I want to point out your wardrobe choice this morning. You're wearing one of my very favorite shirts.
Yes, they are. I've actually worn this on my vacations.
Let's see that shirt. I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. Yes.
And I love it. I get more compliments on the shirt.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Luz. I personally think you were a great mayor. We're going to miss you. I think there may be still time for you to jump in the presidential election. Maybe you could build up some momentum by November, but.
Well, and I'll end, you asked me what I was going to do in the future, and I'll end with this comment. I am off to see my 7 grandchildren. Yeah. And the governor appointed me to the Route 66 Bicentennial Commission, and that's going to keep me busy. And anybody that knows me knows I love to travel. And I will, if we ever get back on the cruise ships, I will be leading the line dancing on the Lido deck. So watch for me there.
A video or
I enjoyed being with you guys. That was great.
Well, thank you very much, Luz. So now we know what the heck are you doing? And so thanks for hanging with us this morning, guys. I want to make just give you a quick information. The t-shirt that Luz was wearing is part of a promotion that we're going to be doing that we will put a link in the comments and let you know some more about that. And we'll talk some more about it at the end of the service today. It's called For Pulaski, and those t-shirts are going to be made available for everyone. And the proceeds are going to go to help so many people that are in need right now. So join in with that. We'll have these I love Jesus, but I cuss a little t-shirts all over the county. It'll be great. Thanks for being here, Luz, and thanks for hanging with us this morning, guys. Have a great day.
Conflicting with the spirit's desire, to keep my heart in step with you, so I do not do what I want to do. All my life I live to follow you alone as you change my desires, liberated by the blood of Jesus. I found life in the sweetness of freedom. Only you have the power to break every chain I place around my neck. I heard your call from the pit of death to surrender all and nothing less. All my life I live to follow you alone as you change my desires, liberated by the blood of Jesus. I found life in the sweetness of freedom. Through the Spirit I have righteousness, sweet victory over the flesh. I can walk with confidence in you as you gratify my soul with truth. All my life I live to follow you alone as you change my desires, liberated by the blood of Jesus. I found life in the sweetness of freedom. I found life in the sweetness of freedom. I found life in the sweetness of freedom.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel. I'm the Next Steps pastor here. And thanks again for hanging out with us this morning. I do want to mention just a couple of things. We have a really fantastic thing that we've started during this whole pandemic called Stonebrooke Cares. If you need help, whether it's emotionally, financially, physically, anything like that, we want you to know that we are here, we are available, we want to help you. Excuse me, if you need anything, just let us know. We're more than happy to help out. We've got counselors available. We've got some financial assistance thing that we can help you with. We just want to make sure that you are well taken care of during this time when we're apart. So if you need anything for that, please let us know. We're more than happy to help. Also for that, we are, you might have mentioned, or you might have seen Luja's t-shirt. We are starting, we've got those for sale. You can find the link in the comments below, or you can go to forpulaski.com/t-shirt. We've got the I Love Jesus But I Cuss a Little t-shirts. We've also got 4 Pulaski t-shirts available. You can order those online. We'll mail them to you, and all of the proceeds are going to help us with our Stonebrooke Cares program. Sometimes we have people who need some financial assistance. They need help with groceries, electric bills, that sort of thing. So anything that you buy is going to help fund that thing. We are still going to help people even if you don't buy a t-shirt, but if you want to help us out, this is a great way to do that. So you can buy a cool t-shirt and help us out with the Stonebrooke Cares. One last thing, we still want to connect with you even though we're not together. So if you haven't ever filled out a Connect card, we would love to get to know you a little bit better. You can do that online at stonebrook.tv/connect, or you can text the phrase Connect card to 97000. It'll tell us a little bit about you. We can get to know you a little bit. If you have any prayer requests, any needs, you can put those there also. So take just a second if you've never done that before and fill that out. It's a really quick little form. We want to say hey today, and we really do miss you guys. So thanks again for hanging out with us this morning. We're going to do maybe another song, and Mark's going to come here in a few minutes and answer some questions. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the service.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Stonebrooke, and I'm really glad that you've taken some time out of your day just to spend with us. And we're just going to take a little time this morning and have a discussion. People have sent in questions that we would, we just like from time to time to discuss some things where people are wondering about the Bible, about Jesus, about God, about Christianity. And we love for this to be a conversation, not just a one-way monologue, but we think people learn best in community. And church isn't just about me standing up here and telling you what you're supposed to think, but this is all about us exploring together and figuring out just what is God like. So if you have a question as we go along, you can send that question in to 415-SB-ROCKS. And you can ask any question you want anonymously. No, nothing is off limits. No holds barred in this conversation. If there's something that you've always wondered about God, or why does the church do things a certain way, or what is Jesus like, we would love to have that conversation. Now, people have sent questions in over the past few weeks, so we're just going to look at a few of them. We won't have time to go into detail on all of these, but hopefully this will just sort of stir your thinking and spark a conversation. So the first question that we have that came in last couple weeks is this: where did Jesus go when he died? Jesus died on the cross. It's a Friday evening. He's dead in a tomb until early on Sunday morning. So where in that interim period did Jesus go? Now, here's something you need to know about the Bible. A lot of people, and I hear people say this a lot, they will start a conversation with this phrase: well, you know, the Bible clearly says. Well, the Bible, which is a collection of ancient writings, is certainly where we start to look for an understanding of who God is and what he is like. But there are many things about the Bible. Once again, it's an ancient book, and it's an ambiguous book. It doesn't always clearly give us concrete answers on everything, and it's actually not its intention to do that. One of the things that the Bible does, it's ancient writers that are doing their best to figure out who God is. And then as we come into the New Testament, these disciples of Jesus, his closest followers, are doing their best to figure out what just happened here. Jesus was entirely unexpected. They expected a Messiah to come to their rescue, to deliver them from Roman occupation, to set up an earthly kingdom, and for happy days to be here again, and for Israel to once again be great on the world scene. But Jesus had different ideas, and they're trying to figure out, okay, our Messiah died, but then he rose again, and then he spent some time with us, then he ascended into heaven. What the heck just happened? And so they're trying to figure it out. And in explaining these things, many times they don't have good concrete answers, but they are interested in the discussion, and they know that they've experienced a life-changing relationship with this person. So one of Jesus' closest followers, his name is Peter, later in life, writing to a church, he said this about Jesus dying and where he went. He said, Christ suffered for our sins once for all time. He never sinned, but he died for sinners to bring you safely home to God. He suffered physical death, but he was raised to life in the Spirit. So this is something Peter knows for sure. I experienced relationship with him. I saw him die, and I know he was raised from the dead. But then he tries to give an answer to this question about what happened in the time between Jesus died and Jesus rose again. It says, so he went and preached to the spirits in prison. Where is this place, the spirits in prison? Who are these spirits? He goes on and sort of gives us a little hint. He says, those who disobeyed God long ago. And then he goes on to give an example of Noah and the flood. But what Peter is basically explaining is that Jesus was very much conscious, just like we as humans are spirit, soul, and body, according to the New Testament. Jesus' body was dead, but his spirit, the real person, was very much alive, and he went somewhere. So one of the things that we should sort of glean from this to begin with is, because Jesus went somewhere even after he physically died, we will go somewhere after we physically die. So that's one of the first things that we can learn. But also, Peter said there were some spirits in prison. Now, the Jewish people believed that when a person died, they went into the lower parts of the earth. In Hebrew, they called this Sheol. It was a Hebrew word Sheol, which simply meant the grave. Now, to the Jewish mind, there were two compartments in the lower parts of the earth that were divided into where good people were and to where bad people were. It's not necessarily something that is supported really well in the Old Testament scriptures. The Old Covenant or the Jewish scriptures don't develop the idea of a hell or a punishment for afterlife very well. But they believed that the people who served God and obeyed the law went to a place called Abraham's bosom. Jesus talks about this in Luke chapter 16. You want to look that up sometime on your own. But they believed that this was sort of a waiting room. This was a place where God was going to send someone eventually to deliver all of Israel, and these ancient Jews that had died before would be part of this deliverance. So they believed that Jesus went and preached to them and said, hey, you guys believe that I was coming. You believe there was a Messiah coming. Surprise, I'm here, and I'm here to deliver you from this sort of holding area and take you to a place where we can be with God forever. The Apostle Paul later talked about this in the book of Ephesians. In Ephesians chapter 4, it says this: that is why the scriptures say that when he, talking about Jesus, it's actually Paul taking an Old Testament scripture and applying it to Jesus. When he ascended to the heights, he led a crowd of captives and gave gifts to his people. Paul is suggesting that when Jesus rose from the dead and eventually ascended into heaven, that he wasn't alone. Now, we could develop this idea. This is why we have life groups. I lead a life group called Jesus Talk, and maybe we'll put a link to that group in the comments below. But we get together. We were just together last Wednesday by a Zoom meeting. We get together and we don't even have to wear pants anymore. We're on a Zoom meeting. It's great. But we just discuss all kinds of these different questions. And so it's very interesting that when Jesus rose from the dead, one of the four Gospels talks about, I believe it's Matthew, that there were some Old Testament saints that also rose from the dead. There's this idea that when Jesus rose victorious over death, and he eventually ascended into heaven, that those Old Testament saints, the people that were believing in God, and perhaps some that even didn't believe in God, this is a question that the Bible isn't clear on, that Jesus in his death, burial, and resurrection not only redeemed us that were to come and even weren't alive yet, but those that came before him were delivered and taken with him when he ascended to heaven. So where did Jesus go? The Bible's not real clear, but it is clear that he was very much alive spiritually, and that there were some other people that were very much alive, and somehow he shared who he was, and it suggests that he took them to heaven with him, so that eternally, when Jesus returns to earth, we will be with him eternally. We will be with the people who have gone before, Jesus' disciples, and even those that have lived for thousands and thousands of years. I think it's going to be great. Sit down with Moses, sit down with David, say, David, what's the deal with Bathsheba? Why did you do that? Why did you kill Uriah? And so we can have these conversations for years. But that's sort of my answer. We could go into more detail, but let's go to the next question. This question came in a couple weeks ago, and it says this. In Genesis 3:16, it discusses the pain that women will experience with birth. I completely believe God is not vengeful or wants to place his wrath upon us. So why then is this in Genesis? Is this an example of religion misinterpreting God. For those of you maybe that have joined us for the first time, there's what I believe is the main theme of the Bible is set up in the first few chapters of Genesis, is that there is a conflict that's going on in this world. Many people, if you ask them, who is the enemy of God? What is that thing that is an adversary to God? Many people would say the devil. But bottom line, the Bible is a story of religion versus relationship. Man's idea of how I gain access to God versus God's idea of I simply want to get to know you, have a relationship with you, and there's nothing required. Throughout the entire Bible, there is this conflict, and it begins here in Genesis. Now, we said this last week. I want to quickly reiterate this in case you weren't here, but this helps explain why the book of Genesis was written to begin with. In about 586 BC, the people of Israel were taken captive to another land in Babylon, which is present-day Iraq, Iran, and they were away from their country, which they believed God had blessed them with, and to them, if they weren't in that land, God had forsaken them. And so while they're away, and they believe that the reason that they have been taken captive from Israel over to Babylon is because they have sinned, they've disobeyed God, and God is angry with them. As they are living in this land and they begin to have children and raise families that have never seen Israel, they begin to ask themselves the question, does God still love us? Is there a way back to God? Is this a permanent thing? Has God said, I've had enough of you? Or is there redemption? Is there a possibility of reconciliation? So they began to pore over the stories that had been shared for centuries about their national origin, and they began to collect them together in writings, not only to teach their children who had never experienced life in Israel or the temple or any of the sacrificial system and the religious rituals that they went through, and they began to tell the stories that they had heard that had some application to their redemption. So they're writing in Genesis 3, and they're trying to figure out, why do certain things happen? And they begin to tell stories that are very common to the culture, not only in Israel, but the nations around them. And they're telling these stories to try to explain why pain and suffering happens. And in Genesis chapter 3, this is God talking. It says, Then God said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy, and in pain you will give birth, and you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. And where people make a mistake many times with the Bible is thinking that this is somehow God's will. This is somehow the way God wanted things to be, and that somehow God is dictating to an author that is writing down the rules and the regulations and sort of a manual for life. And this is how God wants it. This is how we are supposed to live. But actually, so much of the Bible is God's people trying to figure out why things are happening, and they're searching for who God is. And Jesus comes along hundreds of years later and says, you sort of misunderstood some things about who God is. So when we want to figure out what's God like, we always look at Jesus. What's happening here in Genesis is an example of religion versus God, to where religion believes because we've done something wrong, God is punishing us. Now, it is true, and this is where I'm hoping to help us change the way we think about sin. I was raised in a very traditional church. I grew up with the very traditional stories, and understanding all the stories of the Old Testament and all the characters. I was in Sunday school every single Sunday, and so I've learned these stories from a very young child. And the idea of sin has been very prominent in the teachings of church for many, many years. When people think about church, especially maybe those of you that haven't been to church for a while, you're just hanging out with us online. When you think of church, you think of guilt, condemnation, somebody telling you what you've done wrong, and how there's a punishment for that. If you don't live a certain way, you're going to end up eternally punished in hell even perhaps. But the idea of sin, the word sin simply means to miss the mark. Now, many times we think that the mark that we're missing is some standard or some rule. But as we read through the Bible, as we dig down, we take the whole concept, everything about the Bible at once, especially focusing on Jesus, we find that the mark is love, because God is love. And what God is after is a relationship with us, and for us to have a relationship with each other that's based on unconditional love. Where I don't love you based on what you do for me. I love you simply because that's who I am. Because that's what God has done for us. Nothing that we have ever done or nothing we could ever do could cause God to love us more or less. He simply is love. And what he's always wanted is for us to simply accept that, to not try to earn it, to not say, I just can't believe that this divine being loves me. Surely he wants something. No, all he wants is you. And so from the very beginning, this idea that you have to do something, or that doing something that breaks the rules causes a punishment. And that's what's happening with this story, is the people of Israel believe that's what God is like. That's not what God is like. We do live in a broken world. We live in a world that's not the way God wants it. And yes, there are consequences and repercussions for not living according to the manufacturer's instructions, if you will. But it's not because we've offended God. It's not because he's holding something against us or punishing us. And he wants to, in all these situations, to bring a restoration and a reconciliation. So we could go into more detail with that. But let's talk about this next one. And I think this will probably be the last one that we get to. Several people have asked something that's sort of similar to this question. I've kind of made a consolidation of various things that people are asking about. Anytime there's a catastrophe in the world, or anytime there's tough times, many Christians will start to talk about, well, this must be the end of days. If there's war, if there's famine, in this case, if there's plague or sickness, and there's this global pandemic, well, surely this must be a sign that the end of days is coming. And many people have asked, because I see different things on social media going around. They will hear about different chips or even a vaccine that they're going to get that has some sort of tracking or identity technology. And they're like, don't take that. And they're insinuating that's because of the mark of the beast. Now, if you're not familiar with what the mark of the beast is, it's something from the book of Revelation that traditionally the church has talked about is something that's coming in the future. And so what people say is that there's going to be this mark. It's usually associated with the number 666. A lot of times, if you get a license plate with 666 on it, I've heard of people saying, I'm not going to take that license plate. There's the mark of the beast on it. And so they're afraid that if I take a certain vaccine or if I get a chip, and I'm not saying you should get some sort of tracking chip or do anything that you feel uncomfortable with or you feel that's violating your privacy or civil liberties or anything like that. But what I am going to tell you is it's not because it's the mark of the beast. Real quickly, I'm going to take something that would take 18 weeks to discuss in detail and still not cover it. We're going to do it in 1 minute and 43 seconds. The mark of the beast is not something that's going to happen in the future. The book of Revelation is not primarily a book about something that's going to happen in the future. The book of Revelation was written in the first century to a first century audience by a guy named John, one of Jesus' closest followers. It was written in a time when the Emperor Nero was exerting very much pressure and persecution on the Christian church, on Christians in general. This movement of Christianity, of Jesus' followers, had grown to such a large extent that he was able to blame the destruction and the burning of Rome on the Christians when it was actually him that was causing this destruction. And so they were experiencing this terrible persecution. They were being delivered up to lions in the arenas, and they were being killed. And they were very confused about what is God doing at this time, and what is going on? How do we live? John wrote to them with a type of genre of literature called apocalyptic genre. It's kind of a code that he wrote to the church in those days to explain to them what was happening and what they needed to do
during this time of persecution. It wasn't written to tell some believers 2,000 years from now about something that was going to happen during the end times. And here is, we just have a few seconds left, and I just want to show you sort of the key. I'm going to do the key to Revelation. I'm going to do a series someday called Rescuing Revelation. And you should be here for that, or watch us online for that, because it's such a misunderstood and abused book. But in the book of Revelation, John has this vision, and he sees this being that's on the throne, that's supposedly God, and he has a book that is supposed to reveal who God is. And it says that nobody could open that book, and John began to cry. And then all of a sudden, this person, one of the elders, said, "Stop weeping. Look, the lion," and this is key, "the lion of the tribe of Judah, the heir to David's throne, has won the victory. He's worthy to open the scroll and its seals." Keep in mind, this book is what reveals God, reveals God's will. Everybody thought of Jesus as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, this mighty warrior that could tear you limb from limb. But then John turns, and then I saw a lamb that looked as if it had been slaughtered, but it was now standing between the throne and the four living beings and among the 24 elders. This lamb was able to take this book, which is symbolic of who God is, and reveal God. The bottom line, Revelation is a book full of very vivid imagery. It's a very figurative book that is speaking in sort of a coded language about the persecution those Christians were going through, and explaining that Jesus has given himself. Jesus has sacrificed himself for you. And that as you go through this persecution, even though some of you are going to sacrifice yourselves, it is going to turn, God is going to even use that sacrifice that you make to reveal who he is. And that's what actually happened in a history, that many of those Jesus followers, as they sacrificed themselves willingly, and that they spoke love to their enemies, and as they stood in those Colosseums when the lions were ripping them apart, and they would speak love, and they would sing hymns, and they would worship God, that it began to change the hearts of the Roman people. And in just a few hundred years, they revolutionized the nation of Rome till it became a Christian nation. So that's kind of the bottom line. There's much more to that. But our time is gone this morning. I really appreciate you hanging out with us. Send in those questions. We would love to have discussions, and some of these things will develop more in life groups. And hopefully, as you continue to hang out with us, you'll get involved in a life group, and we can dig a little deeper into these things. Now, the band is going to come back with another song. Once again, thanks for being here this morning. Enjoy the band.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. You have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear
Thank you guys so much again for hanging out with us this morning. We're really glad that you joined us. Can't wait to see your faces in person again. But until then, thanks for hanging out. Don't forget, if you would like to grab a t-shirt, you can go to forpulaski.com/t-shirt. Grab your I Love Jesus But I Cuss Little t-shirts or your For Pulaski t-shirts. All the proceeds go to help Stonebrooke Cares. So thanks again, guys. We love you. We miss you. Have a great week.